As bad as you are, you're super short. I'm like a fucking golden retriever. Tell me more, Brittany. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. Tell me.
I'm away. Stop bothering me.
Yes. So we suck at this.
You're listening to the Laughing Couple podcast with your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy. Join them weekly as they discuss topics such as relationships, kids, sex, parenting, all unfiltered and all with a healthy dose of laughter. Please welcome your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy.
And enter sound.
Hello.
Here's the sound waves.
The sound waves.
Wave files.
How are you?
The wave files. What's the do 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 do?
That's the X Files.
Yeah, that's the wave files.
Okay. No, you always make fun of me because I like to do the Hunger Games whistle, and you say it sounds like X Files.
Yeah.
Okay, so do the Hunger Games. You don't even know it.
I don't know it.
It's hold on. I can't really whistle right now.
You're asking a guy to do a whistle that on a movie he's never seen.
Now I'm like questioning myself.
Do
I
it.
feel like I'm going to do
it,
the
hot
X File
shot.
ones. Okay.
Do it, hot
Hold
shot.
on, I got to think about it. That's Hunger Games.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. Yes. Fucking nailed it.
Do 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 do.
That's X Files. It's like a couple other do 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 do. Okay. So
Mulder
unfortunately,
and Scully.
not unfortunately, but I'm not feeling well again. Like I feel like this is like an ongoing. So if you hear me hacking my brains out, sorry.
What? 2 months of this.
It's just stupid. It's like you get better and then you don't get better. But I don't want to talk about this for the whole podcast. I'm just apologizing ahead of time.
I'm not going to jump into the old COVID conspiracy side of the world.
Okay. But
is it just me, or are people sicker this winter than they were 2 winters ago when COVID was COVID?
Right.
Like, I don't remember people being as sick as like everyone I know is sick right now.
Yeah, I know. It's
and
wild.
has been sick for quite some time. I don't remember the general public that I know, that I deal with on a regular basis, being this sick during COVID.
I know. It's almost like people are sicker just with like colds and stuff.
I think I just said that.
I just summed it up because you were taking a really long time to say that. Okay, let's talk about, do you have an I love you and you're annoying? I don't think I have one. To be honest, I think it's just we've been so freaking busy that I'm like, I'm not really focusing on any of that.
This is going to sound so corny.
Okay.
The only I love you and annoying that I have this week is I feel like I haven't seen you enough.
That's not my fault.
No, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm not blaming you for it. That's the only annoyance that I have, I think, this past week is I just haven't seen you.
And for us, we've felt like in our relationship, when we get a little like spicy or like not good spicy, but like just a little snapbacky to each other, it's typically because we haven't seen each other and there is like a lack of communication between us. So then we both just get annoyed because
it's either that or
intimacy
is out.
Yeah, one of the two. We're just like, you're annoying because I haven't seen you in so long, and like it's annoying.
Well, I feel like when you don't have intimacy and you haven't seen the person, then they get this world of like, we talked about this like 2 years ago with Haley Patry.
Yeah.
You get this roommate syndrome.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting we have roommate syndrome, but when you land in the world of roommate syndrome, you start to notice the things that your partners aren't doing because they're not there.
Yeah. And I think that you also like fill in the blanks. Like you're like, okay, so this, your partner has time for this, but not for this. So you're like, you make up these stories in your head.
We've had this argument numerous times, and I'll be very clear about this. We're not arguing about this right now. I have no problem with this right now. But in years past, you're typically someone who goes to bed an hour and a half before I do because you're tired, right? And I understand. I don't have a problem with you being tired. My problem that I did have is when you would go out with your friends, you'd go out with your friends until 11, 12 o'clock. You'd be home at 12, 12:30.
Yeah.
And I'd say, Like, you can do that with your friends, but you can't stay up till 10 o'clock with me. That annoyed me.
Yes, but I also said, like, and we talked this out. There's a huge difference between like leaving your house, being at somebody else's house or being at a restaurant or whatever, and as opposed to sitting on your couch, like watching a show and you're like, like your body just like goes to sleep. You and I, when we go out for like a date night or whatever, we stay out late. Like that is what we do. I think that when we're in our own home and we make the mistake of sitting down on the couch, you've done this too. You're like, I can't, like, I got to go to bed. And I'm like,
Brittany, I got one show in me. It's 8:30.
I know. It's so
and I'm
sad.
like, and then it's like 9:30 and I'm like, am I actually going to go to bed right now? I'm like, well, I have to, but I don't want to.
I know.
And I'm like, I'm a rebel when it comes to bedtime.
No, you are what's called
a rebel.
No, it's actually, it's called.
I'm rebellious. I rebel against sleep.
No, it's not. I'll think of the term for it, but I do this as well. And it's like regret. Anyway, there is a term for it because I used to do that where I'd be like, I'm going to go to bed early and then I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel better. It's called like post-procrastination sleep regret. I swear to God, it's a thing.
Post what?
It's like procrastination. Like
procrastination is hard to say with the P before that.
I will figure this out by the end of the podcast, but essentially it's when you refuse to go to sleep when you know you should. And I was experiencing this when Coop was really young. I knew I should go to bed, but I never did because it was the one thing that I had control over when my body was like just a vessel to like take care of him at all hours of the night. It was like I had the ability to choose like, well, this is what I'm doing for me. Like I'm doing this for me. It actually is a term. Like I forget what it's called, but it's like, it's something with procrastination, like sleep or whatever. And then you have regrets in the morning because you're like, I wish I would have went to sleep. But it was something that you could control in a time where you didn't have a lot of control.
The reason I refer to it as a rebellious kind of way of living is because it's almost like I know it's good for me to go to bed, but screw you, bed. I didn't have anything for me today, so I'm going to watch a show.
This is exactly what I just said.
I'm going to watch a show that means absolutely nothing to me, that I do not care about because I refuse to be okay with having nothing for me.
Yes. It's
rebellious.
Bedtime procrastination.
I think it's called rebellion procrastination.
It's not. You're making it up and it's an actual term.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that term is. I have a feeling we're going to transition into this podcast, and I just looked at the time.
Yes.
And I saw this meme. Maybe it was a meme. Maybe it was a GIF. I don't know. I don't even know the difference between those two things.
Revenge bedtime procrastination. That's what it's called.
I was not far.
It's
Revenge. I said rebel.
Yeah. Revenge bedtime procrastination. It's an actual term. Okay. WebMD.
Is there a definition to it?
Yeah.
Oh, WebMD.
WebMD. Would you like me to read it?
Hashtag.
No, it's too long. Anyways, it is an actual thing. So, what were you saying when you're?
So I saw this GIF or meme or whatever, and it was like 25 minutes into a podcast host. All right, let's get into it. I'm reading it. I'm like, that is the definition of this podcast. We don't even know when the podcast starts.
No, but I think that's our thing. Or maybe it just became our thing.
No, I think it's a thing, and I think people are made fun of for these things.
Whatever. But you know what? We don't like our podcast isn't like an intentional podcast unless we have a guest. That is like our whole podcast is usually just us shooting the shit about life.
Unless it's not. And if it's not, then what you know is Brittany's going to, before the podcast starts, this is what we're going to talk about today. So because we didn't have this is what we're going to talk about today, you know that there's nothing for us to talk about today.
Okay, let's talk about our night last night.
Let's talk about our night last night. Yeah. Last night was interesting.
It was.
I had such a great time. So we went to the Old Dominion concert.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, that's a country band, very popular country band. And the reason I say, for those of you who don't know, is because we didn't know either.
And honestly, I was carved. So like when I was posting some of the stories last night, people are like, oh, I love Old Dominion. And I'm like, they're like fantastic.
Unreal.
Couldn't have told you a single song that they played before that. And people are like, are you, like my close friends too, Cass was like, are you drunk? Like, how do you not know them? And it was a weird experience being at a concert that you don't know any of the song. Like I felt like a total loser. Like,
especially when there's 7,000 people screaming the lyrics of the song.
But
and then the singer will pull the microphone out and everyone's like, yeah, this is my time to shine. And we're just standing there.
I literally just pictured like I tried to do a cricket. That didn't work out.
My fear was that the camera would pan over to us because everyone was like, the camera would pan over, everyone's singing the song and the camera would pan over to us idiots. And we'd just be like,
I would just be drinking and I'd be like, yeah. But okay. So the reason why we went is because Stephen Lee Olsen opened for Old Dominion yesterday. And Yes. And we, there was an Ontario. Mm-hmm.
We live in Ontario, Canada. There was an Ontario tour.
Right.
And this was one of I think there's 4 shows.
So we were asked, Shannon, his lovely wife, asked if we wanted to come down to the concert. And we were like, you know what? We would love to. And so we're like looking up where he's playing.
This isn't even an accurate story.
Yes, it is.
No. So we hang out with our buddy, one of our friends.
Oh, right.
We're hanging out with one of our friends. It is
accurate. I just forgot about that.
And I said to him, I'm like, hey, Adam, where's Whitney, his wife? Mm-hmm. And he's like, she's at the Old Dominion concert. And we're like, oh, who's Old Dominion? And she's like, never heard of Old Dominion? We're like, no, that's why we're asking.
We are not country music people.
We're not anti.
We just like have never really gotten into it. If it's on, we're like, yeah, this is a good song.
Great music. Never heard of them. So anyways, he's describing Old Dominion to us. And he's like, oh, you'll know this song and you'll know this song. And Brittany and I are like, nope. So we said, oh, okay, that's cool. And then he starts rhyming off some of the opening acts. And when he's rhyming off the opening acts, he says Stephen Lee Olsen. And we immediately were like, oh, we're going to Stephen Lee Olsen concert tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you are? We're like, yeah, we're going to his concert. And he's like, I don't think you're going to Stephen Lee Olsen's concert. I think you're going to an Old Dominion concert. We're like, no, we're not. We're going to go see Stephen Lee Olsen.
And we did. And he was fabulous.
We did. And he was incredible. And guys, if you haven't listened to Stephen Lee Olsen, I highly recommend you do, because I have a funny feeling after watching yesterday's performance, I have a funny feeling he's headlining very, very, very soon.
Well,
I was shocked that he wasn't.
We'll get into this, but a few things to say. Old Dominion, incredible. Like I can now say like I enjoyed the band. Like I'll put some on like a playlist. Like I truly liked that it was like pop country. Like it wasn't like twangy country, which again, nothing wrong with, just not my cup of tea. But we had the pleasure of hanging out with Stephen and Shannon after the concert,
during and after,
yeah. And it was awesome. And I just like, because we were talking about this, and we'll kind of revert back later, but to talk to somebody in the space of the limelight and the fame, you never really know what you're gonna get. And
you don't know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolate.
Right. We've met some people in the space of the social world and maybe some of our interviews where after we were like,
not who we thought they would be.
Not exactly who we thought we were going to be. And it's not always negative, but there's definitely been some times where I was like, that's a no for me.
Those aren't our people.
Not our people.
That's okay.
And so it's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Like no one knows that joke. And we're just like doing our inside jokes. We'll go back to that. Yeah. Anyway, so we interviewed them and they were lovely on the podcast, but you just never know what you're going to get when you're outside of a professional setting. And we left and we were like, they're such good people. They've got a little boy, his name's Lincoln, and they're just so down to earth, like regular people. They were so welcoming, and they were just like, this is going to sound like they were just boring, regular people. Like nothing, like I don't mean boring as boring. No, but I don't mean boring as like duds. I mean, like we're boring people too. Like there's nothing like super crazy about us. Like we're just regular people. And it was just really nice to like have conversations with them and be like, these are our people.
It was cool that they didn't have to be a version of themselves to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of conversations that are going on and have been going on for the last little while. The Ellen DeGeneres, everyone's like, oh, she's such a bitch, and the work environment's so tough. And Jay Leno's this. I'm hearing some things about Jay Leno as well.
I'm also hearing things about Jimmy Fallon, and I love Jimmy Fallon and Kimmel.
And so here's the thing. Oh no, what's the guy's name? The carpool karaoke guy.
Oh yeah, James Corden.
Corden?
Yeah.
Apparently, we don't know anything about pop culture. Anyways, the two of us are so boring, we don't even know pop culture.
We're so boring.
So Brittany and I have had some unbelievable conversations about this because, not to sound pretentious, but on a scale of celebrity, we're
a
at
one.
0.
Oh,
right? So let's be clear.
Negative.
However, there is a social platform that's out there. There are a ton of people that follow that platform. And so it makes sense that when you're in a crowd of 7,000 people, an hour and a half from your immediate location, there's going to be some people that recognize you in that space.
But you say that, and it still literally always blows my mind when we go out and we're recognized. I'm like, how? Like, it's wild to me.
But here's what I was getting at with that. So we watched this TV show with Jennifer Aniston called The Morning Show. Is it The Morning Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was The Morning Show. And it was like a behind the camera perspective on what it's like to be somewhat of a celebrity.
Right.
And so we start having these conversations. And here's the thing about Ellen, and here's the thing about Jay Leno, and here's the thing about all the guys that we just talked about, including James Corbin. What people don't recognize, and this is where I think we have such an unbelievable appreciation for these celebrities. You have to, especially on a show like Ellen, where you're on Monday to Friday,
every day.
You have to be on. And I don't mean like on, you got to be on Monday to Friday. And
You're not
people
allowed
are like,
to have a bad mood day. You're not allowed.
Yeah, you're just not allowed.
No.
And like everyone's like, yeah, but like I got to go to work Monday to Friday. Yeah, so do we. But I can be an asshole on certain days and the whole world isn't going to know about it. Right. I watched this interview with what's his name? Cannon?
Jim Corden.
Nick Cannon.
Yeah.
Nick Cannon, Wild Out or whatever.
Wild Out.
Right. And he was talking about what the hardest part of being married to Mariah Carey was. And he was saying it wasn't the marriage, it was the business. And whoever was interviewing was like, what do you mean by the business? He's like, the business of being married to Mariah Carey. He said, if we want to go out of the house, if we wanted to get out of the house as a family to go anywhere, it was $200,000 for us to do that. We had to have security. We had to pre-clear where we were going. We had to we had to fly on our own jet. Like all of these things that were like, you know what? I never even thought about that. Know. There's nowhere in the world Ellen can go. There's nowhere in the world Mariah Carey can go that they're not going to be bombarded by people.
And if you do want to go out, they were saying like you're wearing full prosthetics, like you can't even be yourself. And like I could never be famous. Like I've said this multiple times, like I could never be famous because I really enjoy my personal life too much. As much as I am an extrovert, I am also,
as much as you put your personal life out there.
No, I just mean like my own time. And like if I'm moody, I don't want to pretend that I'm not moody. Like I'm a Gemini. So if I'm pissed off, you will know. So
yeah. And you know what? Like we were talking about this at breakfast the other day, right? Because someone came up to us at breakfast and was talking to us. And by all means, I have no problem with that whatsoever. In fact, I thoroughly appreciate it because it actually shows that what we're doing reaches people and it means something to people.
It's amazing. I love
it's
when people
incredible.
Say hi.
It's absolutely incredible. But we were talking about, I think it was Jennifer Lopez has this like, oh, you're going to bring M&Ms into my room, but they're only chocolate.
No, it was Mariah Carey.
Was it Mariah Carey?
Yeah.
Only chocolate M&Ms. I don't want green, red, yellow.
And everyone's like,
and we're
she's
like,
such a
oh my
diva.
God, what a diva. She's so bougie. And you know what? She absolutely is for doing that. And it's like, ew, that's what it's like. But here's what we've now started to appreciate, especially after watching that show with Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, so good.
That might be the only thing in her life that she can control.
Yeah.
Like literally everything else, she has to be here. She has to go here. She has to do this. Her opinions run through like 3 or 4 different people. Mariah, what do you think about this? I think this, and this. Well, you know what? I agree that you should probably say that, but here's how we would probably suggest you say that.
Well, it goes back to Britney Spears, like literally shaving her head. She was mentally ill, but like shaving her head because she was like, it's the only thing I can control. Like, oh, I'm going to do this. See how... Do you know what I mean?
It's
like
crazy. Someone said it's better to be, so the whole saying is rich and famous.
Yeah.
No, it's better to be rich and not famous.
Right.
And I just like when we're going with Stephen Lee Olsen and Shannonella, we're sitting there and they're like, oh, well, come up here with us. We're waiting for them. They're like, actually, we can't. We got to go over to the sound check area because you can't even stand and watch a concert. Like,
and just be yourself. Like people, and that comes with the gig, and we understand that.
Nothing
and like
wrong
it's
with
a
it.
sacrifice. It was just anyway. Back to our original point. It was really lovely to speak to them outside of the professional space, and they are just lovely people. And we can confidently say we've met some not lovely people. So we like them.
Yeah,
we
but
like
again, even the lovely people that we have met or the non-lovely people that we've met, we get out of the interview or the conversation with them. We're like, they weren't our people. But again,
you're like, maybe they had a bad day.
Maybe they're just like not wanting to be here. Maybe they're being forced to be here. Like there's just so many things that we're like, ew, that person's not like that. Or I didn't think that would be it. They're having a bad day.
Yeah.
And they're just not allowed to. It's really strange.
Maybe just have some grace with your, and this is always my biggest fear, being in like a social space like the gram or TikTok. My biggest fear is like being out somewhere and I'm having like a shitty day, or like the kids are pissing me off. Excuse me. And I am like stern with them, or like I'm just like not happy. And here's the thing about me, even if I am having a really bad day, I will never treat somebody in the service industry like shit. Like I could be having the worst day and I will be so overly nice. So I'm not really worried about that. I'm just like, say I'm having a bad, shitty mom day and I don't want someone to see.
Or maybe the kids are being total assholes.
Yeah. I never want someone to see me in that space and like judge me in that single space and then be like, wow, I saw Brittany Ostfie and she's nothing like she is. Cause that fucking happens all the time. And I'm like,
because
we're
outside
regular
you're
people.
A total jerk.
I'm a total asshole.
Yeah. Big time asshole.
I just I think that people are so quick to judge what they see on social media and just expect that to be consistent all the time. And that's not true. So,
especially our relationship, we're the laughing couple, but outside we're not always laughing.
No. So deep.
We're not always laughing.
We're sensitive too.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's
hold on. I want to tell you a quick story about the Old Dominion thing because it reminded me of my mom.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So by the way, again, to circle back, Old Dominion is fantastic. Yeah. So, but we just didn't happen to know who they were. So my mom, we know now, and we'll listen to them. So my mom, very similar situation. She dated a guy pre-father. Who was in the radio business. I believe he's in the radio business. And he used to get backstage passes to all these concerts. And so my mom gets this backstage pass concert in the 70s to see Elton John. And she meets this guy named Elton John. And he introduces himself and she introduces herself. And he says to her, would you like an autograph? And she's looking at this guy with these weird, big, massive glasses and these feathers and boa all over the place. And she's like, no. And he's like, you don't want my autograph? She's like,
why?
No, why would I want your autograph? And he's like, oh, okay, no problem. So then he goes and performs her concert. My mom didn't know, A, who Elton John was, B, that was Elton John. And it wasn't until the concert started that she put it all two and two together. And she's like, oh, I know all of these songs.
Yeah.
This is the guy that sings it. Wasted opportunity, Mom. So that's how I felt yesterday with Old Dominion. I felt like a little bit of an asshole for not knowing who they were.
I felt like an imposter. Like I should
totally
know.
Imposter.
It was stupid of us. Yeah. But again, there's lots of people that don't know other artists.
All right, should we get into this podcast now?
Yes, what it should. Okay, we're doing a quick one today, but we decided to look at 2 marriage myths. I feel like this might be a fun thing to do, like bust one every other podcast.
Well, we busted one last week.
Yeah,
are we soulmates?
Sorry, let's not use the word bust. Let's use the word discuss, because it's not necessarily saying this is true or not. These are just our thoughts on it.
I was really trying to think of a word that would put the two together.
What? Discuss?
Disbust. I couldn't figure it out. And I knew if I tried, it wouldn't come out of my mouth properly.
Like that?
Disc bust.
Okay. So what is the myth?
Marriage myth. What? Oh, I'm reading it. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. Marriage myth. Having children brings you closer. This is a tough one for me.
It's because our personal story is the exception to the rule, I think.
I don't think children bring you closer. I think children pull you apart if you're not careful.
Yeah. In another, but on the opposite end of that, when we had Riley, it personally
galvanized.
For us,
it galvanized us. Oh, that's a really good word.
I've never heard you use that word.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever used it, but it flows really well. And when I said it, I was like,
I don't know if I would use that word to
intellect level.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Galvanized?
Yeah.
Well, the word might be wrong. Okay. Now that you're questioning it, I'm like, damn. Maybe that's the opposite of what it means.
Would you like to hear
My credibility just went right through the roof. Galvanizes, bring it together. Galvanize it,
Okay.
right? Isn't
Okay,
it?
I don't know. We'll see.
Can you look it up really quickly?
Galvanizing is the process of applying a protective zinc coating to steel or iron to prevent rusting.
Yeah, that galvanized us. So in our personal experience, our children have brought us closer.
Yeah.
At the time in our lives when we found out we were pregnant with Riley, we were not in a good position.
We hated each other.
In a relationship. And we've talked about this in length.
Yeah.
But the idea of having a child made us pull ourselves away from us
Yeah.
and start thinking about this other human being. And by doing that, we were galvanized.
Oh my God. I think that when you're talking about having kids to pull you closer, I think part of it for me is that, like you said, you are worried about or you are caring about something other than yourself and other than your partner. You have this like exterior third thing that you both share. Okay.
Yeah.
And then as parents, you experience again, new things. We talked about experiencing new things as a couple. It gets really hard to have that passion and that spark after 10 plus years because nothing's new anymore. Then you have this kid and you're like, holy fuck, like, is this how you change this diaper? Like, what am I doing here? And you guys are like learning something together. And I think there's something really special about that. But at the same time, those things, I feel like if you don't have a good baseline of communication, those things,
Healthy, yeah.
Oh my God, they can be the exact thing that pulls you apart because they're frustrating and you are super fucking tired.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
High level
and like,
stress.
Nobody's happy when they're having no sleep.
Can't do it.
And so the only person that you can blame is your partner because it's one of those like unconditional loves and like I can yell at you even though that you don't deserve it, but I don't know where to put this anger and this tiredness. So long story long, I think it does and it also doesn't. Just it has to have a baseline.
It can, but it requires a high level of communication and like I would say generosity on both parents' parts to be able to do it. I find there's this thing, and I don't know what it's called because this isn't our space, but there's this thing that says like a lot of couples will always do like, let's buy a house and let's build a house and like they make projects.
Yeah.
And those projects they think will bring them together. And then the project gets completed and on the other end of the project they're not happy. It's like people are always trying to find something to be put into the space to make them happy, whether that's kids, whether that's a project, whether that like whatever it is. And then I find that often if you're coming into
like a
something
temporary,
like if you're coming in and saying we're going to put this into our lives and this is going to fix our situation, I can almost guarantee it's not. So
if you think that you need an exterior thing to fix what's broken in your relationship, that's a no-go.
Fix your relationship.
You got to fix it first.
Fix the relationship. It's not, and then more importantly, especially with children, if you're looking to bring a child into your life to fix your marriage, I would highly recommend that's a no-go. Because if your marriage, work on your marriage.
Yeah.
Because that child is going to be part of that marriage. They're going to be part of that experience. And so they ain't the solution. For us, it worked. That's why I'm like, it worked really well. But what I recommend, hey, have a child. If you and your relationship, you and your girlfriend aren't having a good time, have a child. You get married. Everything will great. You'll start a podcast. Life is great. No. Hard no.
I think it's interesting to think about it too in like not a consistent bring you closer. I think there are moments of parenthood where you're like really close and you share in that like, wow, like this is our life, this is what we did. And then there are harder moments, especially when you introduce a second child. You're like, holy fuck, like it changes the dynamic so much. Like I'm not saying having one kid isn't hard, but until you have a second child, I would say that you'll just never understand. Yeah. There's just so many things that are different. It's like people, oh my God, I know I'm going to be absolutely crucified for this, but when other people compare having a fucking animal, and we've talked about this before, to a child, I want to be like, let's not. But hold on. Hold on. Let me finish this because I know I don't want to be like murdered. Having a new puppy is so much fucking work. Like I get it, but you never, ever, ever, if someone says, yeah, I have a newborn, never ever be like, I get it. My puppy was up all night. No. I don't get to put my newborn in a crate and be like, deuces, bye, here's a bottle of water. That's not the same. So I would just advise you never to compare having a new animal to having a new baby.
That said, choosing a dog is it's weird. It's a longer commitment to the struggle than it is to have kids.
And I get what you're saying, only because we actually just talked about this. I love dogs. I've always grown up with a dog. So I kind of thought that I would have a dog. Ryan's very allergic. And so it's not in the cards for us. But beyond that, I truly feel like if you weren't allergic, we wouldn't have a dog. And that is insane to me. And it's because our friends with dogs, they have such a hard time if they want to go anywhere. Getting a sitter for your dog overnight is not easy. It's like a little bit easier to do for your kids for the most part. If you have like a village,
grandparents want to watch kids that don't want to watch dogs.
No, people are like, I don't want to watch your freaking dog. Like that's hard, and we get that.
Some people do. Some people like it.
Yeah.
But I find that it's harder. So it's a longer commitment in terms of like giving up social life for a dog than it is with kids. Like you're in a bubble either way, but you're in a smaller bubble, shorter bubble with kids.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next myth. Let's disc bust it.
That's okay.
So, marriage myth. Leading separate lives brings you together. So, this is the old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
I'm going to let you like tell your thoughts first because I did that with the soulmate and I was expecting one thing and it was the opposite.
So, I think the problem with these myths are they're black and white, and then the reality of it is they are not black and white. Mm-hmm. If I said distance doesn't bring you closer, I would be lying, because distance does bring you closer as long as it's not long-term distance. Mm-hmm. I would say long-term distance, it's very difficult. We talk about going a week or two without seeing each other or being intimate with each other, and we start getting at each other. Imagine we lived miles away from each other, or our work schedules allowed us to not be there together for like a month or two.
Yeah.
It would be for us personally, it would be very, very, I know that people make it work. I'm not saying people can't make it work. That's why I said, I don't think this is a black and white thing,
it's personal.
But I know for me and you give me a night every 2 weeks to go out and hang out with my boys, and you the same, our lives are way easier.
Yeah.
Our marriage is so much easier, because it's like when you become a parent, you lose that part of you so frequently that if you don't check into it and you don't get that, like, I'm a human being, my thoughts matter, my entertainment matters, and I'm not just the husband of Brittany. I'm not just the father of Riley and Cooper. Like, I'm Ryan.
Yeah.
Let me be Ryan for a day.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that there's something to be said about like experiencing separate situations and experiences and then bringing that back to your partner and having new things to talk about and discuss. Because one of the things in COVID, I felt like for a lot of people was like, you were with your partner 24/7, and in work, in parenthood, in your home, in like everything was just all encompassed. And it was like, okay, like you lose yourself, right? There's nothing new to talk about.
In the moment you're gone and I'm
and so I feel like
not lose your chance to blow. When opportunity comes once in a lifetime, you gotta.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like when we have a couple busy weeks and we're kind of on opposite schedules, and then we make the time to have like a date night, there's so much to talk about. And this also works for the podcast too, because we like to bring up things like sometimes we'll be out and he's like, I forgot to tell you this. And he'll start to tell me something. I'm like, stop it. Save it for the podcast, because if it's a good story, it's really fun to do it live on air. And like, if it's going to be like a discussion, I want to save it for this space. But I think there's something to be said about experiencing different things and then coming together to share your thoughts on those things. Because as much as you say, like, you know, I don't think it would be good for us physically, like being away from each other that long, I think it would be very, very difficult for us personally. But I like the idea, like you said, having your own space, being our own people, and then coming to your partner and sharing your own individual experiences and like talking about it, because it's new. It's not just like, what'd you do today? I already know because I've been in the fucking house with you all day.
You know, the cool thing about busting these marriage myths is they're a really good opportunity for you and your partner to have discussions around these same things, because I don't believe it's black and white. I do believe there's a gray area. But it's nice to know what your partner thinks about these topics, because I know
you might not be soulmates.
Like, yeah, exactly. I know us well enough to know that if I go away on a work trip for 3 or 4 days, the stress level that you have being home with the kids without me here and without my support, when I pick up the phone and I call you on day 3 or 4 of my work trip, your answers are so short.
Yeah, they are.
It's like, am I catching you at a bad time? No, I'm fine.
But
And I'm like,
I've been working on that, and it's been way better. Because
you suck when I'm away with me.
I have 1,000% improved to what I was.
Which is admitting that you kind of suck.
Suck.
You suckish.
No, I don't. I'm way better.
There's an ISH at the end. You suckish.
I'm way better.
You have improved. But I will tell you, as a relationship goes, I know that you are not very good when I'm away.
You know what's so funny? You say that, but like sometimes when you're gone, I run this ship. Like it's almost, I'm going to bite myself in the ass, but sometimes it's easier.
Can't wait to leave.
Hold on. Because sometimes when you come home, you like fuck everything up. You'll be like, I just finished work. And I'm like, okay, this is the schedule. We're doing da-da-da-da-da-da. And you'll come home. You want to be fun dad. You want to like get them excited. And I love that for you. And I love that for them. But every once in a while, it is sometimes easier because I have to have them on this schedule. They have to be at this time to bed because they're like, I need my night, right? So when you come home and the weekends are a little bit crazy because you want to do all of the things, it's like, it kind of throws a wrench in the deal. I'm not going to lie. Like I'm pretty great.
I get it. I felt the same way. I feel the same way. I do. I'm like, wow, I can actually do this without Brittany. Not that I want to, but I'm
I
like,
wanted to be clear.
But I can do this without Brittany. I will say that I know you that way. You're kind of suckish. I'm terrible.
Yeah, you're awful.
I'm terrible.
You're super awful.
Like I want to check in all the time with you. Like, hey, are you okay? How's everything going? And I think it's just like, there's a worry for me when you're away that something bad's going to happen to you. So I'm like, check in with me. Make sure you're okay. Check in with you. Are you having fun? Are you having a good time? Are you getting this trip, what you needed out of this trip? Like, I need to check in. I need answers. Yeah. So as bad as you are, you're super short. I'm like a fucking golden retriever. Tell me more, Brittany. I want to know. I want to know. Tell me.
I'm away. Stop bothering me.
Yes. So we suck at this. So does absence make the heart grow fonder? Not us. Not for us. For you and your partner, perhaps, but not for us.
And we're not soulmates. This has been a lovely podcast.
I've enjoyed this time with you.
Good chat.
Oh.
See you next week.
Brittany?
Maybe.
Hopefully I see you this week.
Bye, guys.
Peace out. A-Town. Boop, 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 boop. There goes a sight from my soul.